Hello everybody, Mannix here. Got a little knife video for you right here, right now. Feel free to subscribe, hit that little bell notification if you don't want to miss any weekly videos of mine. And feel free to support me on Patreon, link down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get right into this. Tip Up Carry, the obsession that hit the scene of knives many years ago. I want to say early 2010s is when it really started blowing up. Somewhere around there. I mean, most knives back in the day, I want to say, were tipped down, like this Ka-Bar Warthog right here. This guy's a blast from the past. Most knives, in fact, the first knife with a pocket clip, the Spyderco Worker, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that was the first knife ever to have a pocket clip. I do know for a fact Spyderco made the first folding knives anyway that had pocket clips on them regardless, so if you like your pocket clips, and if you're watching this, I'm sure you do, you can thank Spyderco for that. But anyway, this is tip down, this is tip up. If you're really not familiar with that, I'll get into that in a minute. So whatever I got on the table on here that's tip up. There's a Spyderco, Mannix, got an old model Voyager right here, Kershaw Cryo 2. Tip up, there's another one right there. It's a SOG Spec Elite 2. Here's a tip down, CRKT Shenanigan. I got one more tip down to show you right here, CRKT Foresight. So it's kind of uneven here. Let me sacrifice one of these guys. I don't know. Sorry, Voyager. Actually, no, it's a SOG just because it's bigger. Yeah, so tip up, tip down. Yeah, pretty much the preference of the knife world, of us knife guys, of you watching this right now. If you're watching this, most likely you prefer the tip-up carry like these three guys are right here. The minority of you like the tip-down. And back in the day, this was a debated thing. Some people like tip-up, some people like tip-down for different reasons, but ultimately the knife universe has made tip-up the norm. Last couple of years especially, every single knife coming out is tip-up, 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 because everybody's been obsessed with tip-up carry on the forums, on the videos. Here on YouTube over the years, everyone kept talking about tip-up. I want it to be tip-up. Every single knife review, people will be reviewing a lot of CRKTs, which notoriously were tipped down for a very long time, like this Shenanigan right here, saying, I like this, I like this, I like this. Oh, I hate how it's tipped down, though. Hate it. Or, oh, that knife looks great. Tip-down carry? Nope, not for me, not buying it. And a lot of knife companies, I feel, were losing sales because of it. A lot of companies that were making tip-down knives anyway, a lot of people were just not even giving them chances, not even bothering with them. Tip down, nope. Like everything else about it. Like the blade still, like the way it looks, but oof, tip down. That's this guy right here, the Foresight. That was a big one I was hearing about when this came out. Really popular knife at the time, extremely popular. Awesome knife, one of my favorites ever. It's got kind of an odd pocket clip, but that was a big one. Everyone's like, everything's great, but oh, tip down carry. Nope, not for me. And I'm sure CRKT lost on hundreds, if not thousands of sales because of this one little stupid detail being tipped down. I prefer tip up myself, but it's not the end of the world for me. If a knife is tip down only and I happen to like everything else about it, sure, I'll bite. I'll take it. No, it's not my preference, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. But now what is really the difference between tip up and down? Well, physically, obviously, when this is being carried in your pocket, I'm right-handed, so it would carry just like this. If you were to look down, this would be in my right pocket. It would be from this perspective. The tip is facing down, pointing towards my feet. Tip up, let's take this Mannix right here. It would be like this. The tip is up, facing my head, and that's how I would carry it. Now, one advantage right away I can tell you is that the blade in tip up is facing the end of my pocket. There's nowhere for it to really open up. One thing a lot of people thought about tip up is that they were unsafe because they thought the blade was facing you, like you're going to reach into your pocket when it accidentally opens up and you're going to slice your hand. But I've never had that happen on me because, again, when it's in this orientation, the end of the pocket's right here. There's nowhere for the blade to move unless you scooch the knife forward at the end of your pocket. I suppose that would give it some room. But if you put it in like a normal person, I don't see that ever happening. Tip down, on the other hand, you could argue is less safe. Now, that sounds ridiculous. The big thing was that a lot of people thought tip down was safer for a long time, but you do have room in your pocket for this to open up. You could go down and then come back up and cut yourself. It's not really that big of a deal. I don't think either one's really like safer or less safe than the other. If anything, tip up's probably a little bit safer just because of the orientation of where you are placing the knife, not so much the tip orientation itself, but it is part of it. So I would argue tip up is slightly safer, actually. Not a big deal, but that is a point I wanted to make. And a lot of people back in the day were arguing tip down was safer. I do remember those arguments. Not so much these days. Again, the norm has moved to tip up. The majority, 99% of knife users, folding knife carriers, want tip up carry. People who are into knives specifically anyway, not people who just kind of go to a hardware store and grab a knife because they need it for their job, who don't look up knife videos or anything. I'm talking about us knife guys, us steel snobs and guys who like to get into the nitty-gritties of our knives and know the materials and the way it looks and the mechanisms. And we're knife snobs. We want to know every little detail about our knives and want them to be as optimum as possible. That's why we get into this stuff. Average person doesn't give a crap. Like, okay, it's a pocket clip. Boop, put it in there, pull it out, open it up, make the cut, put it back in the pocket, done with it. They don't even think twice about it. But us knife people, we like our tip-ups generally. If you like tip-down, let me know. If you're a tip-down guy, let me know in particular why you're into tip-down knives. But, so yeah, safety is one thing. I'm going to argue the tip-up's a little bit better at that. Orientation, tip-up's better for that, I argue. Because when it's in your pocket like this, however, when I grab it anyway, pull it out, hey, look at that. It's already in position to be opened up. Kind of a failure right there, but again, try again. Pull it up. It's all ready to go. It's one motion. You pull it out of your pocket like this, or that's how I do it. I grab it like that. I might have to climb up a little bit and then open it up, but tip down, on the other hand, it's a two-step motion. It would be like this. I would grab the bolster usually. Can't really open it up like that. I got to scooch it into my hand, then open it up. It's like a thumb stub knife right here. Pull it up. Not a big deal. Like, I have to just kind of rock it into my palm. Kind of let it swing down, loosen my grip a little bit, and let it drop into my palm, and then open it up. So I grab it like this. It's not really that big of a deal. It's just you have to orient it into your hand after you reach it out of your pocket versus it already being in that position. Again, which is another reason I think why a lot of people like tip-up. One last advantage to the tip-up carry is balance. Most of the weight on most folding knives is going to be around the bolster area. That's just where a lot of the steel is. That's where the tang of the blade is. Blades tend to get lighter as they get closer to the tip, generally speaking. This is going to be generally the heaviest area of the knife right here, where the locking mechanism is. If you have any stop pins or a stop bar like this, the bolster, the tang, most of the weight's down here. So you want your weight to be as low as possible so it's just more balanced. If your weight's up here, if you were carrying it this way, it's going to be less balanced in the pocket. Not that big of a deal, but it could flop around just a little bit more. You want your weight to be down like a pendulum, almost. That's kind of how I see it. Again, not really a huge deal, but it is an advantage, I feel like we'll see. So we got better balance, safer, and better orientation with tip-up carry. Is there any advantage at all to tip down? Is there anything better? You could argue they're safer. Some people argue that having the tip down is safer. They don't want this. They don't want the tip pointing up at them at all. Again, I don't see what the problem is if it's blocked off by the end of your pocket like that, but it is a concern. You could argue tip down is safer in some circumstances, or maybe based on how somebody may carry their knife, I suppose. But the only thing I can objectively argue, tip down is better for very, very large knives. For example, SOG Spec Elite 2. Now, this is a tip-up carry knife, but when you carry such a big knife like this and have it tip up, if I were to pull it out of my pocket, let's say this is all it's poking out, so I can only grab onto this right here. How am I supposed to open it once it's in my hand? I have to kind of do this. I have to drop it into my hand, then open it up. I'm nowhere near the opening mechanism. The thumb stud, there's a flipper. It's all the way up there, so I got to climb up, then open it up. If this were theoretically tipped down, say the pocket clip was right here, and I grabbed onto the bolster, guess what? Rocking in my hand. Oh, look at that. My thumb's right next to the thumb stud now. Yeah, it's still that two-step process. I got to grab the bolster, then rotate it into my hand, then open it up. But it's also a two-step process if I grab it, tip up, carry as well, isn't it? So I grab it in this position. I have to climb up, then open it up, instead of grabbing it on the bolster, rotating it, then opening it up. So really the only advantage I can think of is bigger knives. Tip down might be a little bit better in some circumstances, but again, you get all of the other disadvantages, and with a bigger knife, you're going to have even more of a balance issue. So I still prefer tip up anyway. That's the only advantage I could possibly think. Sorry, hitting the camera a bunch. That's the only possible advantage I could think of with tip down carry would be with bigger knives, but even then, we have just so many advantages to tip up. It's kind of a why not thing. Why not move the drill holes from up here to down there? You know, just put it there. Like, what is the problem with that? And so many knife companies caught on to that. So many knife companies were seeing and reading and hearing all of the obsession with tip up carry that was going on in all the knife videos and all the forums. So everyone was talking about it. Everyone wants tip up, tip up, tip up, tip up. I need tip up. I need tip up. That's why they started doing that. Not this knife in particular. This was tip up before it was cool. This is going back to like 2006 or something, probably before that. But my point is, knife companies were listening to us. They were hearing us yap about tip up carry, and that's why they all just started moving to tip up. Even Sierra KT. Yes, the notorious tip down company, the CEO of the company, I forget who the owner, someone who is high up in the company of Sierra KT, Columbia River Knife and Tool, personally did not like tip up carry. That's why he forced us all to tip down right hand carry on so many knives. Kind of said screw you to all the lefties for a very long time, but eventually he converted, so now most Sierra KTs these days are also tip up. So saints be praised. It's a miracle. Thank you so much, Mr. Sierra KT man, whatever your name is, who made that decision. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Do you see any advantages to tip down? Are you glad most companies have finally moved to tip up, or at least gave us options? They'll tap the holes on the top, so it'll come in tip up, but like, well, if you want to tip down, you can swap it to that side. That's what I would do. If I was a knife company, I would at least drill the holes in the tip down area to give that option. But you could argue that's more expensive. You know, it takes more time, and some knife companies, these days, most companies don't even bother. They don't even care. They just force you to tip up, and then they'll give you some holes on the left side to swap if you're a lefty. That's what I would do for sure. Definitely make the knife ambidextrous if you can. But tip down, it's kind of out these days. It's going out. It's kind of like the 40 S&W of the gun world. You know, some people still like them for certain reasons, but overall, people are just kind of moving, strafing away from them, throwing in the towel on that option. So personally, I like tip up just because, again, all the reasons I already explained. More balanced, safer, and better orientation overall. I just don't see why you would want it to be in the tip down position, but to each their own. If you're used to it, if you got muscle memory, maybe you grew up with a lot of tip down knives, you don't want to jump to a new carry orientation in an emergency situation, especially if you're used to pulling out the knife from the bolster and rotating it into your hand, and that's how you're used to opening up. Maybe that's the muscle memory you developed and you don't want to move on to tip up. I don't know. Anyway, that's it.